the mind's grand stage. Envision your consciousness as a grand theater where countless performers vie for a moment under the spotlight. The faint sound of your breath, the soft pressure of your blanket, a wandering thought about the future, or the rhythmic ticking of a clock. Each of these experiences is like a performer trying to be noticed. But at any given time, only one act claims center stage. This is the extraordinary narrative of how your brain produces the most intricate show on earth, your conscious awareness. Within the elaborate theater of your mind, a production far more sophisticated than any play unfolds constantly. Imagine trying to direct a performance where thousands of actors audition all at once, yet only one can step forward into the light. That's precisely what your brain accomplishes, flawlessly and effortlessly, every second, orchestrating this internal masterpiece so seamlessly that you hardly ever realize it. Roughly 4 decades ago, a visionary psychologist named Bernard Bars pulled back the mental curtain and revealed something astonishing. Consciousness is not merely a spotlight, it's an expansive broadcasting system. When a thought or sensation captures your attention and enters your awareness, it's like that performer's voice suddenly resonates throughout a vast mental auditorium. Every part of your mind, memory, emotion, logic, and instinct receives the broadcast at the same time. To understand this mental theater more clearly, think of a moment you've likely experienced. Driving along a familiar route, your conscious attention isn't actively managing every aspect of driving. Those functions operate like seasoned crew members, efficiently running things behind the scenes. Then, a red ball rolls into the street. Suddenly, this new event grabs the spotlight. This performance is broadcast instantly across your mental stage. Memory recalls that a child might follow the ball. Emotion spikes into alertness. Your motor systems prepare to stop, and your reasoning begins assessing what to do next. All these systems act in harmony because of the synchronized broadcast from that single conscious experience. But the depth of this theory goes further. Behind the spotlight, in the silent wings of your unconscious mind, countless mental processes continue their own backstage acts. Your body regulates temperature, shifts your position, filters ambient noise, and keeps you breathing, all without requiring your conscious focus. These processes are the unsung backstage team, making sure the theater keeps running without pause. The genius of global workspace theory lies in how it reveals the purpose of consciousness. Just as a theater uses an intercom to coordinate stagehands, actors, and lighting crews, your conscious awareness shares critical information with multiple regions of the brain at once. When something unfamiliar or significant appears, it captures the spotlight, not because it's the only thing happening, but because it must be communicated across your internal stage. Think about the process of falling asleep. The usual auditions for the spotlight become unpredictable. Ideas and sensations that normally wouldn't reach your attention now walk onto the center of your mental stage. The strict director of focus steps back, allowing strange, creative combinations of mental performers to express themselves. That's why your thoughts become dreamlike and surreal. The theater of your mind is shifting from its daytime precision to the loose improvisation of night. The theory also clarifies those moments when you drive somewhere and later realize you remember almost nothing of the journey. During these routine actions, the spotlight is inactive. The experienced stagehands manage the performance without it. But when something unusual occurs, the spotlight swings back around, broadcasting that important moment across your mental world. This mental broadcasting system is what makes human consciousness so incredible. It allows your mind to merge multiple streams of information, imagine creatively, and solve deeply complex problems. When Shakespeare said, "All the world's a stage," he may not have realized how literally that applies to the architecture of our minds. Every instant of awareness is a finely tuned production where millions of possible thoughts and perceptions wait backstage, but only the most pressing or relevant ones emerge into the light. As you relax now, observe your own inner theater. Notice how sensations and thoughts step gracefully into focus and then fade. Some hover just outside awareness, others seize your full attention. What you're experiencing is the most advanced cognitive broadcast system ever discovered. Your own conscious mind, engaging in a continuous interplay of presence. Each moment presents a new act, each feeling a fresh scene, each thought a brand new performance. And the most profound truth? This awe-inspiring show continues, whether you're watching it or not, directing the unfolding rhythm of your awareness, moment by moment, from waking life into dreaming sleep in a continuous ballet of consciousness. The mind's mirror. Understanding higher level awareness. Picture this. You're nestled into your favorite chair, the plush fabric pressing softly against your skin, while the sunlight gently warms your face. But here's where it gets truly intriguing. You're not just feeling these things. You're also aware that you're feeling them. That meta-awareness, the knowledge of having an experience, is what thinkers and scientists have long tried to unravel. It leads us to one of the most fascinating perspectives on consciousness, the higher order thought theory. At its heart, this theory suggests that being conscious isn't merely about having experiences. It's about having thoughts about those experiences. Imagine a mental theater with two levels. On the lower level, your brain processes raw inputs, sensations, emotions, ideas. But it's on the upper level, where your mind notices and acknowledges those activities, that true conscious experience arises. Let's explore with a relatable example. Think of a time you drove along a familiar route and suddenly found yourself at your destination with almost no memory of the drive. Your brain clearly processed everything it needed, traffic lights, road signs, other vehicles, but you weren't consciously aware of it. Why? According to higher order theory, your lower level or first order mental functions were active, but the higher order thoughts, the thoughts about those perceptions, never formed. And so, your awareness never switched on. This concept was first introduced by philosopher David Rosenthal, who proposed that consciousness arises when we generate thoughts about our mental states. It's like having an internal commentator, a silent observer that monitors and reflects on what's happening inside. But this inner witness isn't a little person inside your head. It's a sophisticated web of cognitive systems that track and report on other brain functions. One of the elegant aspects of higher order theory is how it sheds light on the mysteries of the mind. Consider the phenomenon of blind sight, a rare condition in which people who are clinically blind can still respond to visual stimuli. They might catch a ball or avoid obstacles, even though they insist they see nothing at all. How? The theory suggests that while their first-order visual systems still function, the absence of higher-order thoughts means their visual perceptions don't become conscious. The same principle applies to emotional awareness. Have you ever been in a situation where someone tells you that you seem upset, and only then do you realize you're actually angry? Your brain was already feeling the emotion, processing it at the first level, but you became aware of it only once you reflected on it, creating a higher order mental representation. This framework also helps explain why human consciousness is different from that of simpler animals. While many creatures can sense their surroundings and react, humans have the rare capacity to reflect on their own minds. It's like the difference between a security camera that captures everything and a security officer who actually understands the footage. Of course, not everyone agrees with this approach. One common challenge is the question of infinite regress. If consciousness requires a thought about a thought, then do we need a thought about that thought, and so on. Supporters of higher order theory respond by saying that the thoughts themselves don't need to be conscious for the process to work, just like a flashlight doesn't have to shine on itself to illuminate something else. Modern neuroscience has added compelling support to this idea. Research shows that the prefrontal cortex, a brain area tied to self-awareness and reflection, is closely linked to conscious states. Damage or suppression of this region can leave someone able to process information, but without the conscious experience that usually comes with it. The potential applications of higher order theory go well beyond philosophy. If consciousness arises from reflective awareness, then perhaps building conscious machines isn't about raw data processing. It's about designing systems that can think about their own operations. It's the distinction between a computer that runs code and one that recognizes, I'm running code. This perspective also informs our understanding of altered mental states. During deep meditation, for example, people often describe a profound state of pure awareness, where the usual distinction between observer and experience seems to fade. Higher order theory may describe this as a unique moment when first order and higher order systems are tightly aligned, producing a singular form of consciousness. As we move closer to unlocking the riddle of conscious experience, higher order thought theory offers a powerful and elegant explanation. It reminds us that consciousness is not just about experiencing life, it's about being aware that we are experiencing it. This interplay between perception and introspection, between living and knowing that we live, may be the key to understanding how our minds awaken to the world and to ourselves in this vast, mysterious universe. How the brain forecasts reality. The Predictive Mind Model. Imagine arriving in a completely unfamiliar place, one you've never set foot in. The design of the buildings, the ambient sounds, even the way people move feels strange. At first, you might experience confusion. That's because your brain hasn't yet built a mental representation of this environment. But as you begin to move through the streets, notice the storefronts, and recognize prominent landmarks, your brain starts piecing together a mental framework. It constructs predictions about what you'll encounter. If you ever return to this city, it will seem far less alien. You'll feel more comfortable, more oriented. That's because your brain has now developed an internal roadmap, a predictive model, that helps you make sense of your surroundings. This ongoing mental updating process lies at the core of what's called predictive processing theory. To truly grasp the depth of this theory, we need to examine how it operates within the brain itself. This framework is anchored in what's known as the Bayesian brain hypothesis, named after Bayes' theorem, a mathematical tool used to revise probabilities based on incoming data. When applied to the mind, it means that your brain's predictions are not fixed. They're constantly being recalculated using past experiences in combination with new sensory information. For instance, imagine spotting a vague shape far away. Your brain doesn't sit idle, waiting for details. It starts generating possibilities. Is it a person, an animal, a strange object? As more data becomes available, these guesses are adjusted and refined. Neurons play a vital role here. The brain functions using layered communication systems, where higher brain areas send predictions down to lower sensory regions, while raw data flows upward. When a prediction and the incoming data align, the system conserves energy and keeps running smoothly. But if they don't match, a prediction error occurs. Neurons fire signals back up the chain, telling the brain it needs to revise its expectations. This feedback mechanism is central to everything the brain does, from simple movements to abstract reasoning. Take another scenario, tasting a new dish. Let's say you're offered a bowl of soup, and based on the smell, your brain anticipates something savory. But when you taste it, it turns out to be sweet. That jolt of surprise is a clear case of prediction error. Your brain takes note and updates its mental model for what that particular soup might taste like next time. As you have the dish again and again, the prediction becomes more accurate, reducing the likelihood of surprise. Predictive processing is deeply connected to the brain's need to conserve energy. Despite weighing just 2% of your body, the brain uses around 20% of your energy. To operate efficiently, it can't afford to process every detail from scratch. so it filters reality through prior expectations, focusing only on the most important signals. For example, walking along a familiar road, your brain doesn't analyze every crack in the concrete or every distant noise. It already knows what to expect and only responds when something deviates, like a sudden pothole or a loud bang. This kind of filtering helps you function smoothly in complex settings without sensory overload. But predictive processing isn't just about interpreting the outside world, it also shapes our inner experiences. Think about recalling a memory. You're not retrieving an exact recording. Your brain is reconstructing that memory using educated guesses, filling in the blanks with likely details. That's why memories often change. They're flexible creations, constantly updated by fresh experiences and expectations. This reconstructive quality also affects how we perceive time. According to this theory, your experience of time isn't a direct reading of reality. It's a forecast based on patterns. If you're anticipating something exciting like a concert or holiday, time may feel like it's dragging. That's because your brain is in overdrive projecting ahead. On the other hand, during repetitive or boring tasks, time seems to pass in a blur. Your brain is so efficient at predicting these patterns that it processes them almost automatically. Beyond individual perception, predictive processing has massive implications for social behavior. When having a conversation, your brain isn't just waiting to hear words, it's actively forecasting what the other person might say, their tone, gestures, and facial expressions. These predictions help conversations flow naturally. But if something unexpected happens, like someone frowning when you expected a smile, it causes a prediction error. Your brain takes notice and reassesses what you said or how you interpreted their mood. This mechanism may even explain why first impressions are so influential. When you meet someone new, your brain immediately builds assumptions based on surface clues like voice or appearance. These first predictions shape how you interpret their behavior later. Updating those assumptions, if they prove inaccurate, requires effort because the brain prefers to stick with its existing model. One of the most fascinating uses of this theory is in understanding altered states of consciousness, such as meditation, psychedelic experiences, or neurological conditions. In meditation, practitioners aim to disrupt automatic mental habits by simply observing thoughts and sensations without judgment. This quieting of predictions can lead to a heightened state of awareness, where the line between self and surroundings seems to fade. Likewise, psychedelic substances like LSD or psilocybin appear to lower the brain's reliance on top-down predictions, allowing raw sensory information to dominate. This often leads to vivid visuals and altered perceptions, experiencing the world as if stripped of the brain's usual filters. While these states can be jarring, they also shed light on how tightly bound our reality is to the brain's predictive systems. Furthermore, this theory offers a way to understand cultural and social shaping of perception. From an early age, we're exposed to cultural norms and stories that train our brains to expect certain things from the world. These mental templates influence how we interpret experiences, interact with others, and define values like beauty or morality. For instance, someone raised in a collectivist society might predict group harmony and cooperation, while someone from an individualist culture might expect personal autonomy and self-expression. These cultural forecasts shape behavior and even how people perceive one another. Zooming out, predictive processing might even explain confirmation bias, the tendency to favor information that supports our beliefs and reject what contradicts them. From this lens, the brain prefers predictions that minimize error. Challenging those expectations takes extra effort, so sticking with the familiar often feels easier and more rewarding. To truly grasp the scope of this theory, picture walking into a cafe. Your brain isn't only predicting the smell of coffee or the layout of the room. It's also anticipating social behaviors, like waiting in line or saying thank you when served. These subtle social predictions guide behavior so seamlessly that we often don't notice them until someone disrupts them, like by cutting in line. That triggers a sharp emotional reaction, a classic prediction error, along with confusion or irritation. This integration of sensory, emotional, and social predictions reveals the brain's astonishing complexity, but it also highlights a deeper truth. Our experience of reality is always filtered through mental forecasts. We don't perceive the world directly. Everything we see, feel, and think is shaped by layered predictions built from the past, shaped by the present, and aimed at the future. In this sense, predictive processing theory challenges the idea of objective reality. It doesn't say that reality is fake, but that our access to it is always mediated by internal models. Ultimately, this theory presents a profound understanding of consciousness. The brain isn't just passively absorbing information, it's actively crafting our experience of existence. From catching a tossed ball to interpreting a friend's expression, from reminiscing about the past to envisioning tomorrow, your brain's predictions are the invisible architecture of your life. And as we continue exploring this theory, we're not just uncovering how the brain works, we're discovering the fundamental systems that shape what it means to be human. In this constant interplay between guesswork and reality, the fog of uncertainty is never fully gone. Yet through it all, our minds find a way to predict, adapt, and make sense of the world, moment by moment, forecast by forecast. The unified tapestry of awareness. Picture your mind as a vast symphony hall, where trillions of instruments play in unison. Each sound represents a thought, each melody echoes a memory, each beat embodies a sensation. But what enables this intricate concert of awareness? Why does your brain generate this brilliant performance of consciousness, while a supercomputer, capable of millions of operations per second, remains devoid of any internal experience? Integrated Information Theory, or IIT, stands as one of the boldest and most comprehensive efforts to decipher the enigma of consciousness. Conceived by neuroscientist Giulio Tononi in the early 2000s, the theory ventures far beyond the basic question of what consciousness is. It attempts to define and calculate it, proposing that awareness can be measured with mathematical precision. Consider the present moment. As you lie here, your brain isn't simply registering isolated sensations, the pressure of the mattress beneath you, the slow pace of your breath, the softness of your pillow. Instead, all of these elements fuse into a single, unified moment of experience. According to IIT, this merging, this integration of information, is the essence of being conscious. It's not enough to have data, it must be combined meaningfully into a whole. Think of how your mind compares to a mall's security camera network. Those cameras may be collecting vast amounts of visual data, far beyond what a person could perceive, but they are not conscious. Why? Because each operates independently, like musicians playing alone in soundproof booths. Your brain, in contrast, is like a cohesive orchestra where every instrument is attuned to the others, forming something far greater than the sum of its parts. This is where IIT introduces its key concept, phi, a numerical measure of consciousness. Phi is like the conductor's skill in unifying the orchestra. The better the integration, the more beautiful the performance. Similarly, the higher the phi, the richer and more vibrant the conscious experience. Your brain, composed of billions of interconnected neurons, possesses an exceptionally high phi, producing the majestic symphony of human awareness. But here's where the theory becomes truly fascinating. IIT suggests consciousness is not binary. It's not simply on or off. Rather, it's graded, like a dimmer switch. Even a bee might possess a faint glimmer of awareness, akin to a modest chamber orchestra. Compared to the full-scale performance within the human mind, this concept opens up profound possibilities. Could your favorite houseplant possess the slightest whisper of experience, Might a future AI develop its own distinctive conscious melody? These questions arise naturally as we explore the role of integration in shaping what we perceive and feel. Right now, as you listen, your brain is doing something extraordinary. It's not just recognizing individual words, storing memories, or detecting emotions separately. All of it is being interwoven. What you hear might bring up a memory. That memory might stir emotion, and that feeling might produce a physical response. All of this unfolds in a single, unified experience. This is where IT distinguishes itself from other theories. It doesn't argue that consciousness emerges simply from complex data processing. After all, your laptop does that. Instead, it suggests that consciousness arises from how information is organized and interconnected. It's not about volume, it's about structure and unity. Think about what happens when you drift off to sleep. Your conscious awareness doesn't just vanish, it fades gradually. Integration within the brain begins to loosen. Thoughts grow disconnected and sensations fragment. The tightly coordinated orchestra of wakefulness slowly relaxes. This explains the surreal logic of dreams. It's as if the conductor steps away, letting the musicians improvise strange and novel harmonies. The implications of IIT extend far beyond understanding the human mind. If consciousness truly depends on integrated information, then it might exist in forms we haven't even considered. It implies that awareness isn't confined to biological brains. Any system with enough integrated data might have its own flavor of experience. This doesn't mean your smartphone is conscious. Its internal components are too disjointed, but it opens the door to unexpected manifestations of awareness. Take, for instance, someone in a coma. Traditional scans might show little brain activity, but IIT offers a different lens. Maybe pockets of consciousness still persist, like small ensembles playing quietly within an otherwise silent hall. This idea could revolutionize how we approach patients in altered states of consciousness, encouraging deeper respect and caution, acknowledging there might be more awareness present than we can detect externally. Now turn to artificial intelligence. Could a machine ever become conscious? According to IIT, the key lies not in how fast it processes data, but in how deeply that information is integrated. A truly conscious AI wouldn't simply be a faster processor, it would need to unify its information in a way that generates a cohesive inner world, much like our brain's orchestra. This radically shifts how we think about building conscious machines. It's not just about size or speed, it's about creating structures of experience. IIT also sheds light on why some experiences enter our awareness while others stay hidden. It suggests that when information becomes highly integrated across different brain systems, it becomes conscious. When it stays isolated, it doesn't. That's why you might drive home without noticing each detail until something out of the ordinary grabs your attention, forcing that information to integrate and enter your awareness. As you rest now, reflect on the astonishing coordination within your mind. Every feeling, every image, every idea you have is woven together into a seamless whole. Your consciousness isn't just a patchwork of separate parts, it's a living, breathing tapestry. IIT reminds us that consciousness is not simply a feature of our minds, it's the essence of who we are. It's the unifying force behind our every moment of experience. As you move towards sleep, notice how this unity softens, the synchronized orchestra giving way to the looser rhythms of dreaming. Even in slumber, consciousness doesn't vanish. It simply transforms into a new form of music. This is the wonder of integrated information theory. It doesn't just explain how consciousness arises, it helps us marvel at the elegance of our own inner worlds. Each instant of awareness is a triumph of integration, a majestic performance by billions of neurons working in concert to produce the music of your mind. As you lie here now, take a moment to be in awe of this incredible show, this endless interplay of integrated information that composes the singular, unrepeatable symphony of your conscious self. The brain's self-awareness blueprint. Unveiling the attention modeling theory. Take a moment to tune into your surroundings. Notice the faint sounds nearby, the cool or warm feel of the air, the sensation of your body resting in place, and even the flow of thoughts passing through your mind. Now ask yourself the big question: how does your brain generate this astonishing sense of awareness? One of the most revolutionary theories addressing this mystery is known as the attention modeling theory, commonly referred to as the attention schema theory. Picture your brain as the most advanced operational control system ever designed. Much like an airport relies on air traffic controllers to coordinate thousands of planes in the sky, your brain must monitor and manage its own mental focus. That's where this theory, developed by neuroscientist Michael Graziano at Princeton University, offers groundbreaking insight. According to this idea, consciousness isn't some vague mystical force. Instead, it's a highly functional tool your brain has developed over time to track and interpret where its attention is directed. To understand this, consider your brain's body schema, an internal blueprint of your body's position and movement. When you reach for a mug of coffee, you don't need to watch your hands' every move. Your brain already has a working model of your arm's trajectory. Attention schema. Theory proposes that consciousness works the same way. Your brain builds a simplified mental map of where its attention is being focused. Let's bring this into a relatable context. Picture yourself absorbed in a gripping novel. Your focus is entirely locked on the characters and story. Not only is your brain targeting this information, but it's also generating a secondary layer, an internal summary of what it's paying attention to. This summary is what creates your personal experience of being aware that you're reading. But why would our brain need this extra layer at all? Because attention itself is incredibly complex. It operates like a mental spotlight, enhancing certain inputs while dimming others. It's governed by intricate neural circuits, chemicals, and brain patterns. But constantly tracking all of that would require too many resources. Instead, the brain simplifies the process by building a mental shortcut, an attention schema. This is a rough, abstract version of what your attention is doing, free from biological complexities. That mental shortcut becomes what we experience as conscious awareness. So when you say, "I'm aware of that coffee cup," what you're really experiencing is your brain's internal model of how it's paying attention to the cup. The brilliance of this theory is how neatly it explains the presence or absence of conscious experience in different situations. Take blind sight, for instance. People with certain brain injuries may say they can't see, yet they still react to visual cues. Their attention mechanisms are intact, but they lack the schema, the internal model of that attention, so the experience doesn't reach conscious awareness. This also explains why we aren't conscious of everything the brain is processing. Your brain constantly takes in data, heartbeat, digestion, background noises, but you only become aware of the things your attention schema is currently tracking. Think of a building filled with security cameras. You only see what's shown on the central screen. One of the most captivating parts of this theory is how it matches up with our everyday intuitions about awareness. Across cultures and eras, people have described consciousness as something invisible or spiritual. But according to this theory, that's not a mistake. It's a byproduct of how the attention schema functions. Just like the body schema doesn't include technical details like bones and tendons, but still lets you know where your limbs are. The attention schema leaves out the biological mechanisms of attention and instead offers a high-level non-physical summary. This gives rise to the idea that consciousness is something separate from the body, an illusion, but a useful one. This theory also provides a powerful lens for understanding how we relate to others. Just like we use our body schema to guess how someone might move, we use an attention schema to guess what someone else is focusing on. This ability to model the mental states of others is essential for communication, empathy, and cooperation. When you're speaking to someone, you're not only listening to their words, You're also estimating where their attention is directed. Are they listening, distracted, engaged? According to the attention schema theory, this social awareness may have been a major evolutionary reason why consciousness developed in the first place. There are significant implications here for artificial intelligence as well. Perhaps creating consciousness in machines doesn't just require high-powered computation, it requires systems that can track and model their own focus. A truly self-aware machine might need more than attention. It would need its own version of an attention schema. Recent research supports the theory. Brain imaging studies have revealed that regions like the temporal parietal junction activate when people model both their own attention and that of others. If those regions are disrupted, say through transcranial magnetic stimulation, both self-awareness and the ability to read others' awareness may temporarily weaken. The theory even helps us understand altered states of consciousness. Take deep meditation, where individuals often describe a pure state of awareness without content. From this theory's viewpoint, such a state could reflect an attention schema that's functioning without focusing on anything in particular, like having a surveillance monitor switched on, but no activity on screen. Viewing mental health through this lens is equally promising. Many psychological conditions involve distortions in attention or self-awareness. By focusing not just on attention itself, but also on how the brain models and controls attention, we could develop more targeted and effective treatments. Looking ahead, this theory opens up remarkable possibilities. Could we design technologies that improve how we manage attention? Might we rewire attention schemas to reduce stress or enhance well-being? Could we engineer machines with real awareness by building synthetic attention models? In the pursuit of understanding human consciousness, attention schema theory offers an exciting bridge between brain activity and subjective experience. It proposes that what we call awareness is not mystical, but practical, a cognitive tool shaped by evolution to help us regulate attention in a chaotic world. Ultimately, it suggests that the very feeling that defines our humanity, being aware, is a powerful, elegant adaptation, a mental solution to the age-old challenge of staying focused in an endlessly demanding environment. In embracing this view, we inch closer to understanding ourselves, our minds, and our place in the grand narrative of conscious life, the cognitive computation framework of consciousness. Have you ever stopped to think about why your smartphone seems almost sentient in how it responds, interpreting your taps, transforming signals into a fluid digital experience? Now, imagine something vastly more complex, your own conscious mind. The cognitive computation framework posits that consciousness may function through mechanisms akin to those found in information systems, translating raw sensory input into the rich mental tapestry we perceive as life. At its core, this model suggests that conscious awareness is not mystical, but emerges from the intricate ways our brain receives, manipulates, and synthesizes information. Just as a laptop decodes binary inputs into text, sound, and video, your mind converts neural impulses into the felt experience of reality. This concept, pioneered by figures such as Giulio Tononi and Christoph Koch, frames consciousness as a result of sophisticated computational processing. To understand this better, picture yourself in an ornate concert hall. As the orchestra plays, your consciousness doesn't merely register sound hitting your ears, it integrates diverse sensory streams: pitch, rhythm, tone quality, spatial cues, emotional responses, memories of past music, and countless contextual factors into one holistic experience. According to the theory, such complex awareness results from two primary processes: integration and differentiation. Integration refers to the brain's ability to merge disparate information into a unified whole. Think of how your mind fuses the sight of a rose, its contours, hues, and location, with its fragrance and the knowledge that it's a rose, forming a singular conscious impression. Yet this merging is only part of the equation. Differentiation is equally vital. It refers to the brain's potential to produce a vast number of distinct mental states. Your awareness can shift between billions of configurations, each mapping onto a unique perceptual or emotional experience. This diversity allows us to distinguish subtle color shades, identify thousands of faces, and encounter endless emotional variations. A particularly fascinating insight of the model lies in its explanation for the coherence of awareness. Ever wondered why your experience of the world feels seamless rather than broken into parts? Researchers suggest this is due to the brain constructing an integrated information space, a unified computational structure wherein all active data sources converge to form a singular conscious scene. For instance, take the act of drinking coffee. At once, your brain processes the visual of the mug, the warmth of its handle, the scent drifting upward, the taste on your tongue, the memories of past coffees, and your conceptual knowledge about it. All of these streams are compiled automatically into one coherent and continuous experience. The theory also clarifies why certain brain processes remain subconscious while others become part of our conscious life. Think of your brain as a giant organization. Just as a CEO isn't aware of every employee's task, your conscious mind isn't tuned into every ongoing neural operation. Only information that achieves a certain threshold of integration and complexity enters awareness. This selectivity is functional. It prevents the mind from becoming overwhelmed by the vast sensory load it constantly handles. Neurological studies lend weight to this idea. Scientists have devised ways to mathematically measure levels of information integration in brain networks. Metrics like Tononi's phi quantify how interconnected data is within a system, which may serve as an objective measure of consciousness. Beyond neuroscience, the implications stretch into medicine, AI development, and even metaphysical philosophy. In clinical contexts, this model aids in diagnosing and treating consciousness-related disorders. In tech, it guides AI research towards creating machines with genuine awareness. Philosophically, it helps us reimagine age-old debates about mind and reality. But the model's explanatory power goes further. It sheds light on the recursive nature of awareness. Imagine standing between two mirrors, seeing endless reflections. Similarly, consciousness can become self-reflective. You can think about your thoughts or recognize that you're daydreaming. This recursive ability is termed metaconsciousness, awareness of awareness itself. It's like a supervisory system that monitors the content of your own mind. So, how does the brain determine what enters this conscious spotlight? Scientists propose attention schemas, complex internal models that act like editorial boards, selecting which information makes it to the front page of your awareness and which remains backstage. This model also provides a new view of memory. When you recall something, you're not retrieving an exact stored file. Instead, you're regenerating the original pattern of neural activity. That's why remembered events feel vivid and real. Your brain reactivates the prior processing, like running an old software program that produces familiar outputs. Brain scans have revealed that conscious thought flows in rhythmic cycles, around 40 times per second, called the 40 Hz cognitive rhythm. It's as though your brain takes 40 pictures of processed information each second, then stitches them into the fluid movie of conscious life. The theory even explains altered mental states. In meditation, for example, people often report a deep awareness devoid of specific thoughts. The model interprets this as the brain maintaining high integration while reducing differentiation, sustaining awareness but minimizing content. Dreams, too, are highly integrated and differentiated, which explains why they feel intensely real, yet operate under different logic. Furthermore, the theory connects consciousness with predictive processing. The mind doesn't merely react, it forecasts. It builds generative models of what's about to happen, When you reach for a cup, your mind predicts how it will feel, what it weighs, and its texture. Consciousness integrates these future expectations with current sensations and recent memories into what we perceive as now. Emotions, under this view, are not merely feelings, they are intricate data patterns. They incorporate body signals, thought evaluations, action tendencies, and subjective impressions, forming integrated emotional experiences. Looking ahead, this framework has major implications for artificial consciousness. Creating aware machines won't be about just adding more power, it will require engineering systems capable of structured integration and differentiation. Such designs may look radically different from today's AI. Finally, the theory prompts deep questions. If consciousness arises from data manipulation, could the universe itself be an immense information processor? Some theorists propose that information might be just as fundamental to existence as energy or matter. As we wrap up this journey through the cognitive computation framework, we begin to grasp the stunning intricacy of consciousness. Far from being passive observers, we are active processors of life's data. Our minds convert the chaos of raw input into the organized flow of experience. Understanding consciousness this way doesn't strip it of wonder, it enhances it. Through this lens, consciousness emerges as possibly the most refined information processing system known, a system that takes infinite streams of sensory input, memory traces, thoughts, and emotions, and weaves them into the continuous experience of being aware, of being human, of being alive. Mapping consciousness, neural foundations of awareness. Right now, as these words appear before you, countless neurons in your brain are engaged in a complex, synchronized performance, giving rise to the extraordinary phenomenon of consciousness. But how does this intricate web of electrical activity generate your sense of self, your inner thoughts, and your perception of the world? This is precisely what the scientific exploration of the neural underpinnings of consciousness, commonly referred to as neural correlates of consciousness, NCCs, aims to uncover the direct relationships between certain brain activities and our conscious states. Visualize your mind as an elaborate theatrical production. In this metaphor, the neurons act as performers. The different regions of your brain form the stage, the neural firing patterns represent the lighting design, and the synchronized neural rhythms coordinate the movement. Only when all these components operate in flawless harmony does the spectacle of consciousness emerge. In the early 1990s, scientists Francis Crick and Christoph Koch ignited a paradigm shift in consciousness studies. They challenged the prevailing notion that consciousness was untouchable and mysterious, instead arguing that its physical traces could be discovered in the brain itself. This perspective sparked a scientific revolution in our approach to understanding consciousness. One of the most revealing insights from this line of research is that not every bit of brain activity translates into conscious awareness. Your mind constantly processes enormous amounts of input, from internal states like your heartbeat and respiration, to external stimuli like background noise and peripheral vision. Yet, only a narrow band of this input becomes part of your conscious experience. It's as if multiple television channels are always playing, but you're tuned into just one. Among the most critical regions tied to conscious states is the thalamocortical system, a neural network linking the thalamus, a central relay station, and the cerebral cortex, the brain's outermost layer. This system functions like a broadcasting station. When you are aware, it maintains a distinct pattern of coordinated activity. When that pattern breaks down, due to sleep, anesthesia, or injury, consciousness fades or vanishes. But being awake isn't the only variable. Specific types of conscious experiences, such as recognizing a face or feeling happiness, correspond to distinct brain signatures. Seeing a face, for example, activates the fusiform face area. Feeling joy triggers the amygdala and other emotion-related regions. These content-specific NCCs function like individual instruments contributing to the symphony of conscious experience. An astonishing example comes from patients with blind sight, individuals whose visual cortex has been damaged. Despite reporting no visual awareness, they can respond to visual cues. This paradox shows that information processing alone isn't enough for consciousness. It must be integrated and globally distributed in a certain way. Time plays a role as well. Researchers have discovered that it takes about 200 to 500 milliseconds for a sensory event to become consciously perceived. This implies that consciousness isn't immediate. It unfolds like a scene in a play, integrating multiple inputs over a brief time window to produce a coherent experience. One experimental approach that has advanced this field is binocular rivalry, where each eye is presented with a different image, but only one is consciously seen at a time. This method allows scientists to separate the physical stimulus from the shifting content of awareness, helping isolate the neural mechanisms specifically responsible for consciousness. It turns out that how neurons fire together is just as important as which neurons are active. Particularly, synchronization in the gamma frequency range around 40 Hz has been found to play a key role. Like a musical ensemble needing precise timing, neurons must fire in unison to sustain conscious experience. When this harmony is disrupted, the conscious experience can fragment or disappear altogether. The real-world applications of these findings are profound. In clinical medicine, understanding NCCs is transforming the diagnosis and treatment of disorders of consciousness. Advanced imaging technologies can detect traces of awareness in patients unable to communicate, improving accuracy in diagnosis and guiding treatment. Crucially, NCCs are not confined to a single location or circuit in the brain. Consciousness arises from distributed interactions across many brain networks. This explains both the resilience and vulnerability of consciousness. Damage to one area may not eliminate consciousness, but disturbing the system's coordinated activity can dramatically change it. Recent breakthroughs have uncovered even deeper layers of complexity. One remarkable discovery involves the claustrum, a thin sheet of neurons suspected to act as a central hub for conscious coordination. Stimulating this region can reportedly toggle consciousness on or off, suggesting that specific circuits may function as neural light switches. Emerging research shows that NCCs operate across multiple layers of brain organization. At the micro level, there are individual neurons. At the intermediate level, clusters of neurons form functional circuits. And at the macro level, large-scale brain networks coordinate across vast regions. All these layers must work in concert for consciousness to emerge. A particularly captivating structure is the default mode network, DMN, a collection of brain areas that activate when you're not focused on the outside world. It's thought to underpin self-reflection, identity, and inner thought. When you're daydreaming or recalling personal memories, your DMN is likely in full swing, facilitating a unique type of consciousness, distinct from outward attention. Consciousness also appears to be deeply connected to prediction. Your brain doesn't just respond to incoming stimuli, it actively forecasts what is likely to happen next. This aligns with the predictive coding theory, which portrays the brain as a simulator of reality, constantly updating itself based on incoming signals. NCCs are central to these predictive models, helping stitch together your fluid and seamless conscious experience. Technological advances like optogenetics, which uses light to control genetically modified neurons, have given scientists unprecedented precision in probing NCCs. These tools show that it's not just about which parts of the brain are active, but how they interact in time and space. One especially intriguing phenomenon is ignition, a sudden, widespread burst of synchronized neural activity that marks the transition from unconscious to conscious processing. This is thought to represent the activation of a global workspace within the brain, a signature event in becoming consciously aware. Altered states of consciousness, such as those experienced during meditation or under psychedelics, offer additional insights. These states correlate with unique neural patterns and help illuminate how consciousness can vary. This knowledge is not only enriching our understanding of the mind, but also paving the way for new mental health therapies. Looking ahead, several promising research directions are on the horizon. Scientists are developing real-time brain-computer interfaces, exploring how consciousness emerges during early development, and investigating how it differs in clinical conditions. These explorations are already influencing artificial intelligence. By studying how the brain gives rise to consciousness, researchers are crafting new approaches to developing AI systems with potentially conscious-like properties. Perhaps most provocatively, NCC studies are challenging our assumptions about free will. Experiments reveal that the brain sometimes initiates actions before we become consciously aware of deciding, suggesting that consciousness may serve more as a retrospective narrator than a command center. As we push further into the unknown terrain of the conscious mind, the study of NCCs is dissolving the boundary between the objective workings of the brain and the subjective world of experience. Each new insight brings us closer to answering the age-old mystery: how a physical brain gives rise to the rich inner life we each experience. Ultimately, this journey reveals that your subjective experience, while uniquely personal, arises from real biological processes, a coordinated neural performance unfolding in your brain every moment. By decoding this performance, we're not just unlocking the secrets of the brain, we're learning what it means to be conscious, to be sentient, and to be human.
Quantum consciousness, the orchestrated objective reduction model. Among the most daring and thought-provoking theories about consciousness is the orchestrated objective reduction, OR model. This concept was introduced by Sir Roger Penrose, an eminent physicist and mathematician, alongside anesthesiologist Stuart Hameroff, whose work has long focused on the neurological basis of conscious experience. Their hypothesis proposes that consciousness originates from quantum activities occurring within brain cell structures known as microtubules. Microtubules are tube-like proteins within neurons, essential for maintaining cell integrity, internal transport, and cellular division. However, according to OR, their role may extend far beyond structural support. They could be the foundation of consciousness itself. Penrose's interest in consciousness stemmed from his inquiry into the nature of computation and whether human cognition could be simulated by machines. In his influential book, The Emperor's New Mind, he contested the mainstream view that consciousness could be fully explained by algorithms akin to those used in computing. He posited that certain mental activities are beyond the capabilities of any algorithm, leading him to investigate quantum mechanics, the study of subatomic behavior, where particles exhibit unusual properties, such as being in multiple states at once, known as superposition. Penrose proposed that the resolution or collapse of quantum states could underpin conscious awareness. For this to be viable, there needed to be a biological site in the brain where such quantum phenomena could manifest. Hameroff's expertise proved crucial here. His studies on microtubules led him to suggest that these structures could serve as platforms for quantum-level information processing related to conscious experience. The theory contends that microtubules aren't merely passive elements of cellular architecture, but participate in quantum information handling. It introduces the concept of quantum coherence, where particles remain linked in unified states, occurring inside microtubules. When this coherence breaks down, it results in a conscious moment, a mechanism termed orchestrated objective reduction. This idea was groundbreaking because it suggested a measurable physical process at the core of consciousness. Rather than emerging solely from neural networks and chemical reactions, awareness could be linked directly to the fundamental laws of physics, especially the counterintuitive principles of quantum mechanics. OR further proposes that consciousness is non-local. It doesn't reside in one specific part of the brain. Instead, It arises from quantum interactions within microtubules scattered throughout various regions. This runs counter to traditional neuroscience, which often locates conscious processes in specific areas like the prefrontal cortex. The theory represents a shift in thinking, framing consciousness as deeply embedded in the physical reality of the universe. To comprehend OR fully, one must understand the principles of quantum theory. Quantum mechanics, which revolutionized physics in the 20th century, introduced concepts such as entanglement, wave-particle duality, and superposition. Unlike classical physics, where objects exist in clearly defined states, quantum systems can occupy multiple states until they are observed. In this model, superposition is key. It allows microtubules to exist in multiple informational states simultaneously, illustrated by the well-known Schrödinger's cat paradox, where a cat is both alive and dead until observed. This same principle may apply to brain structures, with microtubules acting as sites for unfolding quantum events. Quantum coherence is another vital aspect. It refers to the synchronized behavior of quantum particles like electrons or photons, allowing them to operate in concert. In OR, it's this coherence in microtubules that enables the emergence of conscious awareness. Entanglement, another quantum property, describes how particles can become so deeply connected that changing one affects the other instantly, regardless of distance. If such entanglement exists in the brain's microtubules, it could mean that consciousness stems from a network of interlinked quantum states throughout the brain, not isolated neurons. A central tenet of OR is the idea of objective reduction based on Penrose's interpretation of wave function collapse. According to this view, a particle remains in a superposed state until gravitational forces trigger a spontaneous collapse, independent of observation. Penrose theorized that this reduction could generate conscious moments. In OR, such reductions are orchestrated by biological and chemical influences, allowing conscious experience to occur in an organized, rather than random, fashion.
This idea redefines consciousness as something embedded in the quantum properties of matter, not merely a byproduct of biological complexity. Though controversial, it opens the possibility that consciousness operates under the same principles governing the universe at its most fundamental level. Still, the scientific community remains divided. Detractors argue that the brain's warm, noisy biological environment would quickly disrupt fragile quantum coherence. Yet discoveries in quantum biology have shown that quantum effects can survive in biological systems, such as during photosynthesis or avian navigation, suggesting that similar processes might be viable in the brain. The model invites a fusion of neuroscience, physics, and philosophy. If consciousness is truly rooted in quantum phenomena, it urges a reevaluation of what it means to think, feel, and be aware. Microtubules, tiny cylindrical elements of a neuron skeleton, are central to OR. Unlike other cell structures with clearly defined roles, microtubules straddle the line between biology and physics, making them intriguing candidates for quantum information processing. These structures, built from tubulin proteins, are essential for cellular organization and movement. Their intricate and changeable arrangement might permit quantum coherence to occur inside them. These microtubules could, in theory, operate like quantum computers, processing data in ways that go beyond classical neural signaling. Their scale is also key, small enough for quantum interactions, but large and complex enough to support high-order information processes. This positions them as potential mediators between quantum-scale activity and large-scale brain function. Hameroff's work showed that the tubulin proteins in microtubules might function like quantum bits, or qubits, which can encode and manipulate vast amounts of data simultaneously. OR posits that these qubits undergo orchestrated objective reduction, where a quantum state collapses in a context-sensitive way, producing a moment of awareness. What distinguishes microtubules in this theory is their ability to sustain coherence long enough for conscious processing to occur. While most biological systems are too turbulent for quantum effects to persist, Hameroff and Penrose proposed that microtubules might possess unique qualities that protect quantum states. Their placement in neurons also suggests they could directly influence synaptic activity, and thus brain communication, thoughts, and awareness. This indicates that microtubules may not only process quantum information, but also actively shape the neural events that constitute conscious thought. Furthermore, the dense network of microtubules within neurons could allow for highly integrated information processing on a scale far more refined than standard neural networks, potentially enabling a richer, more detailed form of consciousness. If OR is validated, it could mean that consciousness is not an emergent feature of neural complexity, but a foundational property of matter, echoing through quantum structures in the brain. Microtubules might then serve as the long-sought link between the quantum realm and human awareness. As with any groundbreaking theory, OR has sparked extensive debate. While it offers a compelling view, it also raises many open questions. One of the theory's most provocative suggestions is that consciousness may be a fundamental trait of the universe. If awareness arises from quantum interactions in microtubules, it could imply that consciousness is an intrinsic property of matter, not something that emerges only in complex life forms. This aligns with ideas such as Panpsychism, which proposes that consciousness exists to some degree in all physical systems. OR thus invites a shift away from the assumption that awareness is limited to highly evolved organisms like humans. This model could radically change our perspective on life and existence itself. If consciousness is a quantum process, it might manifest in forms and environments we have never considered, perhaps even in the cosmos beyond Earth. Additionally, OR contributes to solving the mind-body problem, a philosophical challenge that explores how mental states arise from physical matter. Traditional theories have struggled to explain how subjective experiences emerge from neural activity. By offering a quantum explanation, OR presents a new bridge between the inner world of the mind and the physical structures of the brain. If consciousness results from the universe's quantum characteristics, it might not be a byproduct of biology alone, but a reflection of reality's very essence. Life at the Center, a reimagining of reality through biocentrism. Biocentrism is a groundbreaking concept that reconsiders the standard materialistic interpretation of the cosmos, put forth by Dr. Robert Lanza, a renowned American scientist and author. This theory argues that life and consciousness are not mere consequences of the universe's physical properties. Instead, they are the essential foundations from which reality itself arises. This paradigm shift flips the traditional scientific view, asserting that the universe exists because of consciousness and life, not the reverse. The roots of biocentrism lie in Dr. Lanza's deep background in biology and regenerative medicine. Over the course of his professional journey, Lanza has investigated the essence of life, focusing on how biological functions appear to exceed the limitations imposed by material reality. Biocentrism emerged as a fusion of his biological research and his philosophical engagement with consciousness, culminating in a theory that seeks to unify both fields. At its core, biocentrism claims that any attempt to fully comprehend the cosmos must include the contributions of living beings and conscious awareness. One of the foundational claims of this theory is that space and time are not objective structures that exist independently. Rather, they emerge from the way conscious entities perceive and engage with their surroundings. This notion closely mirrors philosophical arguments that reality is a mental phenomenon, a view that has captivated thinkers for generations, but is now being reevaluated in light of modern scientific insights. A central pillar of biocentrism is the idea that consciousness is the primary agent behind the formation of the universe. In this framework, Reality does not exist in a fully determined state until it is observed. Observation, in this view, is what actualizes specific outcomes from a field of possibilities. Without an observer, there exists no fixed reality, only a domain of potential states. This perspective finds support in quantum theory, particularly in findings that highlight the role of observation in defining physical states. Quantum physics, which explores the behavior of matter at the tiniest scales, has consistently shown that particles act differently when they are being observed. Experiments like the double-slit test indicate that observation is not passive, it actively determines outcomes. Lanza builds upon this idea, suggesting that consciousness is not just an influencing factor, but the foundational layer upon which reality is built. He contends that the cosmos is a creation of consciousness, rather than a precursor to it. This bold claim has sparked widespread discussion, especially since it challenges long-held materialist views that regard consciousness as a mere byproduct of brain activity. If biocentrism is accurate, it implies a fundamental reevaluation of scientific models. From subatomic particles to galactic structures, all must be reconsidered through the lens of consciousness and life. In moving forward, we delve into the theoretical mechanics of biocentrism, analyzing its take on space, time, and the cosmos through a consciousness-based lens. The theory disputes the classic notion of reality as an objective entity by stating that time and space are dependent on perception. One of its most striking assertions is that these dimensions do not inherently exist, but are fabricated by the conscious mind. According to this perspective, reality is akin to a blank canvas, and it is consciousness that supplies the colors and shapes. Without awareness and life, space and time lack meaning. They are perceptual artifacts, not independent realities. This aligns with quantum principles that view particles as probabilistic states until observed. The double-slit experiment supports this. The act of observation collapses a particle's probability into a tangible form. Biocentrism extends this principle beyond quantum particles to the universe at large, suggesting that the cosmos behaves in this way at every scale. In other words, just as a particle's state is not determined without observation, so too the universe lacks form until engaged by conscious beings. The universe is not an already existing space into which life incidentally appears. Instead, it co-emerges with awareness and perception. The interconnection between consciousness and physical existence is vital to biocentrism. Contrary to neuroscience's traditional stance that consciousness arises from neurological activity, biocentrism maintains that consciousness is the underlying reality, and that matter arises from it. The brain, then, is not the origin of consciousness, but more like a device that receives or channels it, much like a television set interprets signals into sound and image. This paradigm shift drastically alters our understanding of both the cosmos and ourselves. If consciousness is primary, then the material world, including time and space, is merely a platform on which conscious life plays out. This upends the dominant scientific view that sees the universe as an empty expanse ruled by impersonal laws and where life is a rare accident. Biocentrism also redefines how we think about cosmic origins. The conventional Big Bang narrative describes the universe emerging from a singularity, a point of extreme density and energy. In contrast, biocentrism claims that the universe did not originate in isolation, but in tandem with consciousness. From this standpoint, consciousness and the universe are co-creators, mutually defining and giving shape to each other. Quantum entanglement, the phenomenon where particles influence each other instantaneously across vast distances, further supports the biocentric view. It suggests that consciousness may be deeply intertwined with the fabric of reality, operating beyond conventional physical limitations. This implies that consciousness is not confined to individual brains, but is a fundamental feature of existence itself. In the next stage of our exploration, we consider the philosophical dimensions of biocentrism, particularly how it redefines concepts such as life, death, and existence. Biocentrism's bold premise, that life and consciousness are central to the universe, has sweeping philosophical ramifications. It challenges conventional beliefs and invites a rethinking of death, time, and what it means to be alive. In materialist terms, death is final. When the brain stops functioning, so too does consciousness. But biocentrism offers a different interpretation. Consciousness does not cease with bodily death, as it is not rooted solely in the brain. Instead, awareness could continue beyond physical demise, echoing spiritual and metaphysical views that see consciousness as eternal. This suggests that life and death are not binaries, but points on a continuous spectrum. This also transforms our understanding of time. If consciousness is not brain-bound, then linear time might be an illusion. Biocentrism posits that time is a mental framework for organizing experiences. Past, present, and future could all coexist, with time being a subjective tool rather than an external measure, an idea that complements Einstein's theory of relativity, which also portrays time as relative to the observer. Another philosophical implication of biocentrism is the participatory universe. Reality, in this view, is not a fixed entity existing independently of observers. It comes into being through observation. This participatory nature renders reality dynamic and co-created, not static or objective. Reality adapts in response to the conscious beings who engage with it. Biocentrism pushes us to question the very foundation of existence. If the material world is shaped by consciousness, it could be more like an immersive experience, similar to virtual reality, than an external, immutable environment. This idea parallels spiritual teachings such as Hinduism's Maya, which describes the world as an illusion, and contemporary hypotheses like the simulation theory. Despite its provocative ideas, biocentrism is not without detractors. Critics argue that it departs too far from the empirical traditions of science. While it draws support from quantum mechanics, skeptics assert that extrapolating these findings to suggest that consciousness literally creates the universe is an overreach lacking experimental proof. Others worry that the theory might be overly anthropocentric, centering human consciousness as the defining force of the cosmos. Even though biocentrism aims to elevate all life forms, critics suggest it risks putting human perception at the universe's core, potentially neglecting broader, non-human perspectives. Nonetheless, biocentrism remains a captivating framework for those who find traditional materialism insufficient. It presents a view of the universe as vibrant, interconnected, and alive, where life and consciousness are intrinsic components of reality rather than incidental phenomena. This model encourages us to see ourselves not as isolated biological machines, but as vital participants in a conscious cosmos. As we examine the cultural and moral effects of biocentrism, we see how its principles influence ethics, environmental values, and spiritual thought. By placing awareness and life at the center of everything, biocentrism offers a transformative way of seeing ourselves, our planet, and our responsibilities to one another.
Rethinking consciousness. The vision of panpsychism. The concept of panpsychism fuses two Greek terms, pan meaning everything, and psyche, signifying soul or mind. At its foundation, panpsychism asserts that consciousness or mental experience is a basic and ubiquitous attribute of the universe, existing even at the level of the smallest particles. This view stands in stark opposition to materialist thought, which maintains that consciousness emerges only from highly developed biological systems, such as the human brain. The philosophical roots of panpsychism stretch back to antiquity. Early Greek thinkers like Thales of Miletus believed that all of nature was imbued with some form of life or awareness. Thales, for example, famously declared that everything is full of gods, implying a universe brimming with inner vitality or consciousness. This ancient perspective reflected a worldview in which the cosmos itself was seen as vibrant and intrinsically connected. As philosophical inquiry evolved, the belief that consciousness might be a fundamental quality of reality persisted through various intellectual eras. During the Renaissance, Giordano Bruno proposed that the universe was infinite and populated by countless conscious beings, including stars and planets, each possessing their own form of awareness. Though his views were deemed heretical and led to his persecution, they marked a pivotal moment in humanity's contemplation of consciousness and cosmic unity. In the modern era, Panpsychism has gained renewed interest among thinkers who find conventional accounts of consciousness inadequate. One of the theory's most recognized contemporary proponents is philosopher Galen Strawson. He contends that consciousness cannot emerge from entirely unconscious matter. Instead, Strawson argues that consciousness must be a built-in feature of all things, no matter how small or simple. His stance forms part of a broader critique of materialism, the prevailing view in science, which attempts to explain all phenomena, including consciousness, through purely physical mechanisms. Yet materialism faces a persistent challenge. It struggles to explain qualia, the subjective, qualitative aspects of experience. In response, Panpsychism suggests a different framework. Consciousness is not a byproduct of physical processes, but a basic component of existence, comparable to space, time, or mass. This reconceptualization opens up new ways of thinking about how consciousness arises and operates. If consciousness is embedded in the fabric of all matter, then the brain may not generate it, but rather organize and enhance it. This hypothesis implies a gradation of consciousness across all entities, from subatomic particles to complex organisms, with more advanced structures supporting more elaborate forms of awareness. Panpsychism thus challenges us to reconsider what it means to be conscious. It invites us to explore the idea that the universe is alive with myriad forms of awareness, most of which are either too rudimentary or too alien to be easily recognized by human perception. It dissolves the conventional boundaries we draw between the animate and the inanimate, the sentient and the insentient, painting a picture of a dynamic, interconnected reality. As we delve deeper, it becomes clear that Panpsychism offers a novel interpretation of the mind-matter relationship. Where traditional science often treats consciousness as a secondary phenomenon that emerges from complex systems like the brain, Panpsychism holds that consciousness is present at all levels of matter. This bold assertion dissolves the stark division between the conscious and unconscious, the living and the non-living. Central to Panpsychism is the notion that consciousness exists along a continuum. On one end are highly integrated systems like the human brain, capable of complex, self-reflective thought. On the opposite end are the fundamental particles of matter, which, according to Panpsychism, might harbor extremely simple forms of consciousness, not thought or emotion, but a rudimentary type of awareness. This idea isn't meant to suggest that atoms have intentions or sensations, but that they might possess some elemental aspect of experience. In doing so, Panpsychism addresses what philosopher David Chalmers has called the hard problem of consciousness, the difficulty of explaining how physical processes in the brain produce subjective experience.
Human consciousness is rich, layered, and self-aware, while the consciousness of a stone might be so primitive that we can scarcely recognize or understand it. Intriguingly, this notion aligns with certain interpretations of quantum physics, where particles behave in ways that suggest choice or agency. Some speculate that these quantum behaviors could reflect a rudimentary form of consciousness present in all matter. Though speculative, this idea reshapes our understanding of the cosmos. If consciousness is indeed widespread, the universe could be far more alive and connected than we currently imagine. It suggests a reality where awareness plays a foundational role in the development and structure of everything. Panpsychism also urges us to reconsider our ethical and ecological outlook. If all matter possesses some form of consciousness, however slight, then our interactions with the natural world might need to reflect a deeper level of respect and sensitivity. This perspective fosters a more holistic and compassionate relationship with the environment. Additionally, panpsychism encourages us to think about consciousness in radically unfamiliar ways. While we experience it as a sequence of thoughts, emotions, and perceptions, other forms, such as that of an atom, might involve a mode of awareness so foreign that we can hardly conceptualize it. This opens the possibility of a rich diversity of consciousnesses existing across the universe, including forms that are entirely outside human experience. According to panpsychism, consciousness might not be confined to living beings. It could extend across the entire spectrum of reality, from microbes to cosmic structures. Perhaps even the universe itself harbors a kind of awareness, similar to how the Earth is described in the Gaia hypothesis, as a living system that self-regulates to sustain life. Panpsychism takes this further by implying that Earth's consciousness could be just one element of a much grander universal mind. Just as individual neurons give rise to a unified brain, diverse conscious entities might contribute to a collective or even cosmic consciousness. The universe, in this light, becomes a vast mental network in which every component plays a part. Such ideas, while speculative, have long inspired both spiritual traditions and science fiction. They echo ancient beliefs in a living cosmos and modern portrayals of sentient universes. Though not yet scientifically confirmed, these notions invite us to reimagine the scope and meaning of consciousness. Panpsychism may also provide insights into the relationship between consciousness and time. If awareness is fundamental, then the experience of time might vary based on how that consciousness operates. Some beings might experience time as linear, while others might perceive it as fragmented or even non-sequential. These hypotheses are not definitive answers, but imaginative expansions of how we think about the mind. Viewing consciousness as a universal feature opens new doors for understanding the cosmos and our role within it. From an evolutionary perspective, panpsychism redefines the story of consciousness. Rather than viewing it as a late development tied to neural complexity, panpsychism proposes that consciousness has always existed and that evolution simply reflects its increasing complexity and integration. Organisms didn't gain consciousness so much as they gradually developed more refined and expressive forms of it. Basic life forms might respond to stimuli in simple ways, while humans experience rich internal lives involving reflection, creativity, and emotion. This perspective also raises questions about future forms of consciousness, especially those that might arise in artificial systems or through post-human evolution. Panpsychism further suggests that consciousness may be shaped by different environmental conditions. Could other regions of the universe harbor forms of awareness unlike anything on Earth? The theory allows for consciousness to manifest in unrecognizable ways, shaped by the unique physics of alien worlds or even entire galaxies. Moreover, panpsychism invites contemplation of group or collective consciousness. Just as neurons collaborate to create a unified mind, individual consciousnesses might merge to form larger wholes. This aligns with theories of collective intelligence seen in ecosystems, societies, or even swarms, suggesting that awareness may transcend individual boundaries. If consciousness permeates reality, it may blur the lines between self and other, human and non-human, individual and collective. This reconceptualization also provides a framework for mystical experiences reported throughout history, moments where individuals feel a deep unity with the universe. Panpsychism suggests these experiences could be glimpses into the broader interconnected nature of consciousness that permeates all things. In conclusion, panpsychism presents a daring and transformative vision of consciousness. It challenges traditional distinctions in science, philosophy, and spirituality. While still speculative and controversial, it provides a powerful lens through which to reinterpret our understanding of the mind and the cosmos. By proposing that consciousness is not an exceptional occurrence but a foundational trait of all matter, Panpsychism urges us to envision the universe as a vibrant, interwoven network of awareness, brimming with mystery, possibility, and meaning.